they're there for.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
type that link in the chat right here. It's
sure. Yeah.
prosperitypub.com.
I haven't gotten out of anything. I'm still in my credit spread trade from this morning. I'm still in my cash secured puts. I haven't rolled out of anything or anything. I let everything expire Friday because when it's down like that, I can't roll it. Like AVGO, as Jacob says, that thing just got the chips knocked out of it.
Yeah,
And
no kidding.
but that trade worked. We were short. I was short the 355 put and long the 350 250 put, and that thing was down like 40 some bucks. And then it closed at 359 on Friday. I just didn't even bother rolling it or doing anything with it until today with a different stock. But man, oh man, did that thing get hammered! And it got hammered again Monday, yesterday. Just AVGO's just been getting destroyed. But I'm
So
long
somebody's
it
at
at a lower cost. I'm still bringing in a ton of cash, selling calls. Um, it's been great. Yeah.
so somebody's asking what the commissions are at Tasty Trade. It's right there on the screen, at least for this account, right there.
Zero at Robinhood too.
And 0 at Robinhood. That's why I trade there, especially for this, where I've been pushing up to like 100 contracts a week on this. So
Yeah.
that's
I've been buying a little more AVGO too here as it's coming down. I got a decent position, but I just love that thing. And I think it's oversold here. Hood too. Hood's been gotten whacked.
well, Jack, I told you this might
You
come back to
did.
my line
You
right
did.
there.
I was looking at that yesterday and I thought this the first thing he's going to say is, and you're right, man, you called it. When it was at 419, you were telling me it could go to 340 and I
Yeah.
thought you were crazy.
And right there at 339.
Yeah, I
Right.
thought there's no way. I mean, I respect your opinion, but I think you're way wrong on this. And as usual, you turned out to be right.
Get lucky.
You get
Knock on
lucky.
wood. Knock
The
on wood. I
harder
get it.
you work, the luckier you get. That's what a guy told me one time. I thought that's funny. Yeah.
Hey. And this one still has the potential to break down.
Yep. This is wrong. This story here is completely wrong uh, on Hood coming down. I think it's a totally an illusion. They're as far as payment for order flow, they're one of the top recipients of cash, even in the options market, getting paid for order flow. Huge. I don't think the stock it deserves to be under 120, but I'm buying more of this one as well. I sold the 117 cash secured puts. I didn't get those, so I'm going to do that again.
I'm
And
I'm
I like this one.
personally I'm personally at odds here because my technical pattern did fire off an entry right there. It met the criteria for a 75% likely target up here. But just based on all my history of trading, I'm highly cautious about this further decline, lower low right there. So I'm at odds with myself. 75% likely that we go on up here, hit this 162.90 target. But just my personal feeling, gut, stomach feeling about this is we might come down here and make a lower low before we turn and go on up there again.
Under 100?
It lower than this low, which was right around 100. Yeah, we could poke below 100, and we poked down there
I'd go,
lots of
I'd
times right there.
I'd back
That
up the truck
that
and
right
load it up
there,
if that
that right
if it'd get
there.
down there.
We might come down and retest that right there one
I'd
more
be one of
time.
the longest shareholders of Hood in our ecosystem if that happened. I like this thing. I think the story is all wrong. I think they're going to have amazing earnings. Not just, everybody's focused on Hood and the retail trader, but there's so much more than that now. They got subscriptions, they selling insurance.
They just
Just
turned on two new products yesterday. I don't know if you paid attention.
which was that? Insurance or
Uh, they
gaming?
they added short selling.
Yeah.
They added short selling yesterday, or announced it, and they added what they're calling yes no markets. Binary options, basically, either yes or no. It's kind of like the betting stuff, but they're just binary answers, yes or
Mhm.
no. you only two choices. And I thought that was interesting. A
I
new
think
product they were
people are going to
rolling out.
get killed doing that. Uh, they are. I mean, that binary stuff's tough. Yeah, Chris says prediction markets, they're doing that. I think they're doing it on their own. I don't think they're incorporating a prediction market with Kalshi or Poly market. I think they're doing their own.
Yeah, I think they decided to go head to head with Kalshi and Polymarket. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's where it's at. And we're going to have more trading. The options market wants to go longer.
yeah,
Stock market wants to go 23 hours.
yeah, Nasdaq yesterday filing the petition with the SEC. I don't remember who runs Nasdaq right at the moment, uh, but they filed the petition with the SEC yesterday to go to 24-hour markets for all stocks listed on Nasdaq.
Hmm.
And they're expecting that to get approved and to be implemented by Q2
Yeah,
2026.
saw
So
that.
so this is not just like coming up slow. This is coming in hot. Potentially in the next 6 months, we could be looking at 24-hour markets on Nasdaq listed stocks.
I'll just tell you though, without the steadying hand of the market makers, the aftermarket session is just going to be wild. I mean, I could tell you because there's a couple things you can do. Let's say this hood, let's say we're in the aftermarket right now. You could put an order for sale out there at 121 when it's trading at 119.17. And if somebody puts in a market order and your order at 121 is the market order, you're going to sell it at 121
Oh yeah.
and then be able to buy it back at 119.09. It's just going to be cowboy times, which I love that. I love the aftermarket and I love the pre-market. I love that time. But it won't be stable. It won't be
Well,
liquid. Uh, I don't
yeah,
know how they would do options because that's more of a specialist thing, right? That's more of a live person. I don't know how they're going to do that with options.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting is what it's gonna be. How is it gonna work? Time's gonna tell because we don't have any precedents on this. Like it's not like we had 24-hour markets and we did away with them. This is all up and coming. So what you can look to is the crypto markets. They stay
Yeah.
pretty liquid 24/7.
Yep.
But there are inefficiencies. There are people getting ripped, and that's probably going to spill over into
Yep.
the traditional markets.
You don't want to do too much in the aftermarket unless you want to get out of something or into something immediately. But just to trade in it, it'll be rough. But Blake brought up I saw somebody brought up a really interesting thing talking about prediction markets being the hot thing, and you know prediction markets being in the news. I saw a news story the other day that started off with the headline, "According to Polymarket."
Yeah, I see
Right?
that every day right now.
Really? In the news? Like so
Yeah.
you got the traditional media is quoting Polymarket over a news story
You know
as a
what's crazy?
source.
It have like Polymarket tends to be right 90% of the
Isn't
time.
that the weirdest part about it? That's a part that is so freaking weird. That's a science. That's a social science in and of itself, this stuff. Just, like I said, you used to be able to bet only on the Super Bowl, crazy bets like who's going to kick off, how many punts will there be, things like that. Now, is everything you can bet on. You can even make up something and put it on there and see if there's a market for it.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Right here. Times 2025 person of the year is the number one thing to bet on right now. The Fed, I mean, it's like you refresh this. Here we go. A Super Bowl champion coming up in February. Who's Trump going to nominate the Fed chair?
Oh, what's a Super Bowl?
Yeah, Super Bowl right
Rams?
now. We've got Los Angeles versus Buffalo versus Denver versus Seattle. I mean, there you go. Like, looks like the top two right now, Buffalo and Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and Denver coming in, and then Seattle down here.
Talking about Polymarket as a stock, I'm putting in a bid on it right now through Hive. Uh, you can get in on Polymarket and some of these pre-IPOs. If anybody wants to sell theirs, I'm putting in a private bid for some. I think that and Perplexity AI are the only two private deals that I want to get in on. Tilray, I don't trade Tilray. I don't know how high that thing's going.
I don't know. I mean. A lot of people lost a lot of money before on Tilray.
Yeah,
So,
not a lot of money in that stuff. Yeah, Anthropic you can get in on. There's a lot of great pre-IPOs. The only problem with them is the longer they're in that pre-IPO phase, the more the platform just wants to keep raising money and continue to raise valuations until, it's almost too expensive to take it public. But Tilray's an amazing story. Uh, there's not as much money in this as people think there is in marijuana. The biggest problem is you don't get to write off any taxes. I mean, any expenses. So you're paying tax on everything. I don't know how any marijuana business can stay in business legal because the tax would kill them. So they must not just be paying a tax.
hey, just a little under the mattress, a little on the books, you know.
I mean, you got a publicly held company in a business that's not allowing
Uh, a-
tax deductions,
what I
or
think is
banking
funny,
even.
what I think is funny though, a lot of people play this for U.S. approval of, you know, weed, marijuana, whatever, in the U.S., and they have no U.S. sales footprint at all. They have no ability to sell in the U.S. All of
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
production, all of their dispensary, all of their everything is in Canada, not in the United States.
That market
And
isn't that big compared to our market.
they don't even have a foothold so in the US. So why would their stock benefit from the US approval? It's not going to be
Yeah.
a direct approval that's going to have them, it's going to have high costs for them to get into the US market. So
This is a completely backwards industry the way people think of it as. Even if marijuana became legal Monday, the the margins in it are terrible. Uh,
the
it
barrier
doesn't
to entry
inhibit.
is low too, really. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
relatively
barriers
low.
to entry are low. The margins are really, really super low. And running a grow is expensive. So I don't see why people think this is going to work. Uh,
And you
why
got
it's
to
going to
trust
jump
Jack.
up.
You got to trust Jack. He spends all his time in the summer hanging out in Colorado with all those grows, you know.
Well, look, I'll just be honest with you. I financed a bunch of them. I owned at one time in 2009. It was a different world in Colorado back then, but you know, you'd spend easily 250 grand building a grow. We had to insure it. We paid $600 a month just to have two dogs living in it. Uh, is super expensive. It got broken into, even with the dogs into it. It was unbelievable, the expense. And yeah, we had high revenue, but thin margins, and with no legal tax deductions, I wanted out, so I got out. But it's not what people think it is. It's a tough racket.
And then you got the government trying to take a big chunk of tax because they see it as like, you know, a luxury, like, you know, like tobacco and alcohol and stuff like that. And guess what? The black market, like mentioned in the chat there, they don't pay their taxes. They don't, you know,
Yeah.
they don't get it registered. They don't, you know, they grow it somewhere else in the dark corners and bring it to the market. May or may not have quality, but it's cheap, way
Yeah.
cheaper than the stuff at the dispensary. So,
I wouldn't
uh,
touch any marijuana stock with a 10-foot pole. Just telling you guys,
it's
even
tough.
if it has a little bit of a run, it's not sustainable. It's not a good racket. I mean, you look at, like, I tell people, like, look at the tobacco market, right? Way more people smoke cigarettes, and you can handle all that production in just a few states with tobacco, right? And yeah, and if it happens, these are be the guys that get into it. Anheuser-Busch, Altria, the mom and pops will be gone.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I have a couple cousins that are there in Boulder doing grows, running grows for people, and you know they're concerned about the day when it all kind of does legalize and the big corporations take it all over. You know,
That'll
they're
happen.
they're like, we just won't even be able to compete with the money that'll flow in, and
Yeah.
you know it'll just be a whole different game. So,
There were a
uh,
lot of mom and pops in Colorado back in 2009, 2008, 2010. A lot of them. And a lot of guys, it was people that were getting into it didn't know anything about it. And I remember two guys that from IBM that retired from IBM early. They took all their 401k money, they put it into a grow operation, and it got a fungus in there and wiped the whole thing out. And they took the rest of their money, built the thing back up, and they hired a guy to come in and run it for them. And it got some other kind of pathogen in there, and it wiped them out twice. Both guys in their late 50s completely financially wiped out and had no experience in it. And that's what can happen with the mom and the pop. But here in Florida, big corporations are going to run it. There won't be any mom and pop deals, and they'll be gone in Colorado too and everywhere else. But boy, the state of Colorado is really taxing it hard. Last I saw, hundred of millions in taxes coming in.
And that's tough to compete with when you got a black market that doesn't even pay any taxes. So,
Yeah, 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 and it's a funny law enforcement thing too. It's weird. Black market can thrive because police really don't even enforce the federal law. The local police don't. So it's
and
just
then,
weird.
yeah, then you got a whole. Well, I think it's interesting the way they're jockeying it right now on the national stage, where they just kind of kibosh the farm bill with the government reopening thing, where they're going to limit that, but they're looking at passing this all over to the ATF. So the alcohol board is going to be the ones that control it, and that's why you got like Anheuser-Busch, Altria, um, all the traditional ATF, that's alcohol, tobacco, firearms. So alcohol and tobacco companies are going to be the ones that take over the weed
Totally,
industry. So,
totally going to take it over, and hopefully they'll. It's not for kids. There's a lot of young teenagers and stuff that like that, but that's not. Well, your brain is still developing. You shouldn't be using it. So hopefully they'll put some kind of ban for younger kids on it. Not that that's going to stop them, but it ain't for a young brain. Yeah, hemp too. Didn't hemp got
yeah, that
the
was the
law
whole farm.
changed? So
Yeah, the whole farm bill thing was hemp. People were taking hemp, growing it legally, putting it through distilleries and distilling it up with higher THC and stuff like that than
yeah,
traditional marijuana grown,
it's
and
crazy
then selling it at the all these like dispensaries all
everywhere.
around
And
everywhere.
the gas station, and my buddy has a liquor store over here, and he's got one whole cooler rack with these drinks that have THC in them. And I said, "Is that the same kind of THC that's in the smokable?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Can you drink that and feel it?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And I couldn't believe it's not regulated.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing.
It is the craziest thing, and that's from hemp. Like I don't know how they squeezed it out of hemp, but
Yeah, they take a whole lot of hemp and distill it down. It's
mhm.
just the wildest stuff, and it's all legal because of the farm bill. I think that was a loophole that they. Oops, that's not what the unintended consequences
Yeah,
of that
yeah,
2018 farm bill, and then so now we patched it with the 2025 government reopening bill, and we'll see what happens over the next 12 months. They have 12 months to kind of figure out where that where that's going to get reslotted. But there's tens of thousands of dispensaries that have opened up for those CBD shops and stuff like that.
hmm
And that's big business, and it's just kind of been flying under the radar. So they're gonna put the kibosh on that, I do believe.
yeah, yes. A lot of that stuff. I know a guy in Phoenix who's got a ton of those CBD. That's the legal stuff, but you're paying there's no margin in that either, and that's a tough racket, man. I would not want to have five stores paying the rent, the insurance, and the employees just selling CBD pills and drinks.
Well, they sell that distilled hemp in there too. So
Oh, really?
yeah, that's
Oh,
where it's
man.
really. I think that's where they're making their money is the THC products that have been distilled out,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
they
That,
call them
that
CBD, but
weird stuff. Yeah. Well,
anyway.
this thing is really stretching nice, Tesla. Look at that. I'm just watching it eat into the 480 price, 480.37. It's really starting to do what we've been waiting for it to do all summer.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for gosh, since September at least. Well, it's just been chopping in here.
Yeah, and 460 was you were saying, we want this to get to 460. Now look at where we are.
460 is the confirmation that we were going higher, and now we're pretty much confirming 2 days. is it 2 days or 3 days up here now? 2 days. Yesterday was a gap up. Today, confirmation. We should be able to push on out to 550. That's the
Yeah.
target.
I might
75% likely.
I might have to do a little I might go long a little TSLL and do some higher strikes, cash secured puts. I don't want to watch this thing rip when I don't have a big bite, you know?
Hey, I've been turning off the premium and collecting shares and all sorts of stuff. Robinhood told me this morning I have like a $360 payment coming to me for the 600 shares I have sitting there in that 50K challenge account. So
Awesome.
that'll be
Yeah.
tomorrow when that hits. I'm like,
Yeah.
cha-ching. That was an extra week worth of selling options right there.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
So
Yeah, I think this is going to work great. I mean, look at this. There's going to be a lot less resistance, ironically, as Tesla moves higher. And as you've mentioned several times, higher prices draw in more buyers. So news of this gets out, people start seeing it's going higher. They think it's going to rip, and it will.
yeah, Jack, you missed part of the conversation we had on this yesterday between Blake and I. Let me see if I can find this. This was an absolute crazy thing I saw. Let me pull this back up, pull it
Number
over.
of calls.
It just, yeah, it was just a very large chunk of calls up here at 500. We're talking about millions of gamma exposure right up here, millions and millions. And think about it. It can't just go to 500. Those people paid big money to be at 500. So it's got to go through 500. And that's for this Friday. And we're not even talking about like a long time away.
Wow. Has the short interest increased as it's gone up in price?
I think it's decreased actually.
That'd be that'd be okay.
I
I'd
don't,
rather see. I'd rather be long, and have the short interest increasing as it's going higher. This is eating into the 480 price. Good. Look at this. Wow. It's going to have less resistance. I'm telling you, going higher, it's going to have way less resistance moving up. So now TSLL's got to be almost a 3% move up
yeah,
to
I mean,
220.
yeah, 220. Let's see. TSLL should be 220, 230. Yeah, 220, 230. Yeah, right in there. Let's go.
Look at that thing, man. That is ready to go.
Near term targets on TSLL 25, 26, 31. But then when you zoom out, and my technical patterns don't always work on leverage stuff, but if we do actually get the move that is set up on here, we'd be looking at 53, 67 as possible potential targets up here to
Yeah,
just
I
be
don't
in.
really need a down day, Chris, to sell cash secured puts. A down day helps. It really does help, but it's not, I'm not going to wait for a down day to sell cash secured puts. I'm going to do them anytime. I like this one. I've loved this one since Jeffrey turned me on to it. It's been one of the biggest money makers.
It's crazy. It was better than I bit.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
just
is better than I've been. Because for a while there, I would get put the stock, and then I'd get called out the stock on the next expiration. So that's a dream trade, right? You're back to
yeah.
cash all the time with
It,
no
it,
risk of P&L, loss.
I actually have a live Gex thing we can actually pull up. This is not by our company. This is by a different group. Right there, the biggest gamma level on the chart right now, hanging out right here. You can see that net Gex 300 million calls are worth 314 million, and puts at that price are 10 million. So lots of money, and that's just the value of the premium that was spent. Not
Ah, man.
not even the not even talking about the actual ability to affect the underlying.
Yeah. Or the price they paid. And how much does Tesla have to move for that 500 call to make money at the price they paid?
Yeah, I mean, just insane kind of numbers up here.
It just always is baffling to why people would straight up pay all that price for a call.
That
$10 million dollars of it, right? That just blows my mind. Why they would pay through the nose to get into something.
What does that mean? And it means that Gex level is going to act like a magnet more than likely. More than likely. And it's positive, so that means that the market makers are hedging counter to the move. So as we climb higher, there's market makers are actually selling against it, muting the move, but it's probably going to act like a magnet and go up there to the 500 at least. For the people sitting at 500, they need it to go on through to make money. But it's just taking a huge amount of options that have traded and are being traded on this Friday's expiration, which is the quad witching, which is the end of the monthly, end of the quarterly, end of the weekly, end of the, stack up all the expirations. They call it quad witching. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, go to Investopedia, Google it, look at it, read it. But there's 114,000 contracts at that 500, and that's why that level sit up there.
Yeah, that's
114,000. And the volume, we just increased it by 94,000 today. Today, 94,000.
it's a lot.
Craziness.
I think that's too much volume for a covered call, Chris. I think people are speculating their way in.
Yeah, look at
Uh,
these
we,
big orders. Big orders. 40,000 right back there. That's what's causing these big levels. And the price is going up. Like the person that bought 40,000 back here at $1.30, they're sitting there at 350. I mean, they're already 100%. They were up six. Yeah, that was like they're at 400% right here. If they sold out, but they probably didn't. They're probably still sitting on them.
the market maker could not protect the 500 level. If they might want to, they might try, but this market is too big for any market maker or group of market makers to control the price. It's uncontrollable.
Yeah, that was almost 43,000 contracts. So think about this. Each contract represents 100 shares, right? There's not going to be a market maker out there that's going to sit on this kind of reserve cash to be able to do this. Pull up my calculator. Handy dandy calculator. 43,000 times 100
Too much.
shares.
Too many.
We're
He's
talking
going
about
to,
4.3 million shares of
and,
risk control. And
and
that's
that
at
you can't,
500.
and you can't get that all at one price though, right? You're not going to get all that at one price. He would say, I'll stop you if you put it in an order. He's going to say, I'll stop you on this much and I'll work the balance because he's not going to flash fill you on that.
If you wanted to control 4.3 million shares at 500, you need $2.15 billion just to buy the stock. And then
He
you got to
does
have,
too. He
then
would
you'll,
too if he sold the calls, right?
then you'll probably need at least 4 to 6 times that much to be able to push price around.
Even then, it'd be hard.
And then, it's still hard because of how big the market is. Because when you look at how many shares are sitting here on Tesla, and for some reason, my earnings bubble is missing here. Where'd they go? That's interesting. Oh, that's TSL. Tesla. There we go. That's why they were missing. We're looking at 3.3 billion shares. All right. We were only talking about 4.3 million shares. That's a drop in the bucket compared to 3.3 billion shares. You're not going to be able to do jack diddly with 4.3 million shares. You're
Mm-mm.
not going to push price around at all.
Mm-mm.
And 4.3 million shares takes $2.1 billion. So we're talking about huge.
Can't move it. Cannot move it. Market makers can't move it. No one person can move it.
Yeah, so you're not going to be able to control it. You're not going to be able to manipulate it. People talk about manipulation in stuff like gold. The market's too big for that. Nobody has the money to push gold around. It's just the collective of humans, a lot of humans optimizing for the same thing. And it seems like there's a hand pushing these stocks and being manipulated, but you're not going to manipulate $30 trillion. You're not going to manipulate $4 trillion. You're probably not even going to manipulate anything down to $1 trillion.
Not even the little ones you can't.
We're going to have to go way on down this list, probably down in the hundreds of
Even
millions
even a
to be able
penny
to.
stock is hard to push around.
They're difficult because there's so many players and so many shares and so many conflicting optimizations in the market.
Strategies, yeah. And that's what makes a market.
So people that talk about manipulation of the market, Yeah, there might be people front running and collecting those hundreds or ten thousands of pennies, with the order flow. But the real manipulation that people think, pushing at dollars and market makers defending strikes and like that, that's all just kind of bullshit. It's a convenient story to try to get you to buy products, but it's probably not actually happening.
Not happening. And Costas, we keep flipping between TSLA and TSLL because we're looking at TSLA. That's the underlying stock, but because of its expense, it's not good for cash secured puts and covered call stuff we like. So we're getting a bigger bang for our buck trading TSLL. So we're looking at TSLA, but we're trading TSLL.
Yeah, it's like you come in here, TSLA, if I was going to buy or sell I'm going to try to, do one of these covered call or, cash secured put, come in here, look at the price. Holy weasel, I need 17 grand just to do one contract right there. That's not very doable. My account doesn't have sufficient buying power available, right? That's, I mean, pretty clear here. But if I go to TSLL, which gets me 2 times bang for the buck on the moves, but I can roll in here and potentially do one of these, and it's only $2,000. So that's a big difference. You'd be like, well, to get the same exposure, blah, 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 blah. I mean, yeah, if you have the big account, you can go ahead and do Tesla. I don't have the big account. And this one gets me a 2x bang for the buck on the moves. Um, yeah, I do have like 6,000 shares of this. It's like, why didn't you just buy like a couple hundred shares of Tesla? It's like, because the 2x leverage potentially is going to pay me out a lot bigger payday than what I would have gotten. And I'm not playing options on Tesla because I'm not that confident in the timeline of this all playing out. Maybe it plays out by this week. Maybe it plays out by January. Maybe it plays out by February. Maybe it's not till June next year. With
Yeah.
TSLL, I don't run out of time.
I like Don says, how about a bull call spread on Tesla? I love doing those because, buying one call is too expensive. But if you offset that cost by selling another call, you're good to go. I like that. That's a good weekly trade.
Yeah, that's a great weekly trade. But what if you're trying to play the longer term big pop? Um, where would you play? There's a lot of options.
Uh, if I was trying to play the longer term big pop, I'd go long TSLL.
and that's
I wouldn't buy a long term option.
and that's the point. That's why, it's kind of like why this, why that. We've kind of talked about this a few times. It's like you have stock as, the tools of taking advantage of price moves. You have stock, you have calls, you have puts. You can combine those three instruments together in different ways to take advantage of different moves. There's no single best weapon of choice to take advantage of anything. Right? If you have a time frame, options start looking really good because you can get better bang for the buck. A lot of options get you 10 times return. But if you don't have a time frame in mind, I like to go with these leverage tickers, supercharged tickers. So that's, I mean, that's, as Gregory says in the chat, you just teed up the need for supercharged ticker. That's exactly why I've been trading them for a long time. I've been trading them for years, these leverage tickers, and I mostly trade stock. Very rarely will I trade options, directionally options. I'll do selling puts and taking the shares and then selling calls against it. Like that's a cash generating machine, as Jack and I have shown for the last couple months. We both are doing this. Like I have these are actually live positions I have open right here.
Yeah.
I actually have 10 shares you can see right there in between in a very small account that's in here. I have sold 20s, I've sold 19s. I've been rolling those since September. I've kept those same 2 strikes going since September.
Isn't that funny? And they say this thing is a volatile stock, and it just goes. It's not. It's just moving sideways. So, not all the other leveraged ETFs play out like this, though, Chris. This one is just unique right now.
Now, the biggest the biggest thing we found right here, you go look at Tesla, you look at how much volume it's pushed today. 50 million. The average for 30 days, 80 million. 80 million a day for the last 30 days on Tesla. Go look at TSLL. The average volume for the last 30 days is 100 million shares a day. This is unique.
Yes.
This actually trades more per day than the underlying stock.
Isn't that crazy? Twice as much with a two-time beta.
And with a
Yeah.
giant beta down here.
And the price, like, I keep going back to the actual price because, 100 shares of Tesla is prohibitive. I would never do that, buy 100 shares just to sell one call. It's too expensive. I would never do a cash secured put on Tesla. Same thing. It just takes too much capital. Whereas this thing, at this price, this is a dream. You could do cash secured put for 2 grand, 1,700, 1,900, or 20% of that if you're doing it on margin. And if you want to buy 100, it ain't going to break the bank, and you'd sell calls all day long.
And because of this 2x factor right here, and the fact that the beta is 2x, you actually get 2x bang for your buck spent doing the wheel on this versus the underlying Tesla.
Yeah. And we look at every asset, IBIT, we look at every single thing and how can we optimize the wheel and what asset is the best for the wheel. And right now, there has been nothing better than TSLL. And when people ask me what else, right now, nothing else. And I do a little bit of IBIT. I still am in that one. But
Yeah, I've got 100 shares and one contract going, one contract. That's it.
yeah,
I was doing like 12 up here. I'm doing 1,200 shares, 12 contracts. Right now I'm down to one because the risk is high that this takes another spill.
very high. And that's going to unravel so much stuff. MSTR back in the limelight.
Yeah, it's
Look
like
at this thing. Damn.
you
It was at
it's
200, and I was like, I want to get in on this. I think I can go from 200 to 280.
man, this can easily push down here to the 120 area very easily. We look at that bounce right there. Look at that. Perfect on my fib lines.
What's the 50?
That bounce,
Perfect. And that
and
means
then
lower. That's you called it. You called that just like you called IBIT. What's the 52-week low on this horse?
that's where we are. Pretty sure.
Ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, ooh, ooh.
Well, it'll be that candle that we spiked down right there, December 1st. So 52-week low is 157 and we're at 164. So we're only like $7 above the
Man.
52-week.
No, I'd never suggested selling calls on BITO, Jim. I've never traded BITO in my life.
Now, I did see an interesting strategy for this the other day where you would buy shares, buy 100 shares to collect the dividend. You would buy a protective put and you would sell a call above it. And the goal is to get out 3 or 4 months in time and collect this fat dividend right here.
No thanks.
It's like 90% return on capital and you have no risk because you have the protective put and the upside call to finance that. So
I like
it's
the
a
idea. I like the idea of even or doing you buying the stock and selling an option to pay for a protective put. I like that part.
yeah.
But man, there's no trend. This goes against everything I do. I,
Yeah, that's the hard part here. This would just be a dividend capture play. It would not
yeah,
be any kind of stock appreciation play at all. See,
yeah.
what you would be doing was coming in here, you'd be buying a protective put, you would be selling a upside call, and you would have to be buying the shares at the same time. And I just messed that up. You'd be buying a put, you'd be selling the call to finance it here, and so you'd have to put your money at risk here, right?
Nah,
That's
trend
but
is no good for me, man.
you use that money and then you would capture the dividends between now and 6 months out. And that the only thing you would be collecting was the dividends. So you would be counting on this thing staying listed and staying consistent on the dividend payments.
And not reverse splitting and
Yeah,
yeah,
not reverse splitting, not doing any craziness, down here at 12 and keep paying these dividends roughly 75 to 80 cents a month for the next 6 months. And that would be where you would make the money. You wouldn't make the money on anything else except these dividend payments.
yeah. No, thank you.
So it just I saw that yesterday. I was like, it's an interesting idea. It's kind of an arbitrage, a dividend arbitrage play where you wouldn't really count on any appreciation or depreciation of the underlying. But yeah, and people are like, well, what about other leverage tickers that how could you play those? Like Meta here, you look at they trade the volume on Meta compared to Tesla is just abysmal. 18 million here. And then METU would be a supercharged ticker for that and only trades 5 million. See, it
It's
doesn't
not
have
enough.
the volume. I have not found another one of these leverage tickers that trades more than the underlying. Even like SOXX here, average million, average this is iShares semiconductor, 6.3 million shares a day. And SOXL, all right, you got volume there, 100 million right there. And that's why Jack started playing this.
I like it. I'm going to keep playing a little bit.
But this isn't necessarily 3x leverage on SOXX. So you got to be careful. It's a 3x on semiconductors, but
Hmm.
there's not necessarily an underlying here.
Hmm.
So you go look at the fund. This is not necessarily, see, they're playing all these stocks. So you got to be careful. There's not a single
Some of them are
underlying.
not good too. You know, some of them are terrible.
And yeah, some of them are absolutely terrible. Some of them are very popular. TQQQ, very popular. This one trades 100 million, 120 million a day,
Very liquid.
but it can take a big spill down when the market gets a pullback. As you can see right there in April, that would have been pretty devastating if you had bought in right here. Come in by April, you went from $50 or $46, $48 to 17. And it took you all that time to get back to scratch.
Hmm. That's the side of leverage that people don't like, the downside.
Yeah.
It
And
falls
TSL,
fast, man.
well, look at TSL too. Like we're like Tesla is up here scratching at a breakout, but this one's still sitting here at the 618 level. And we're still running. If you want to look at it that way, between the Tesla chart and this chart, we're still running like about 3 months behind. Tesla's up here scratching on the breakout, while this one's hanging out down here
Hmm.
in this consolidation. So if you had been long, if you got long over here, you're still suffering. You're still down almost 50%. I had gotten long down here, knock on wood, wrote it up, stupid enough not to book profit. I just sold calls up here and then wrote it back down. And then I was underwater and I was still selling calls. And that's how my cost basis is down around like some of it's $6 and some of it's $4. And I've been selling calls and selling puts and selling everything against it. I accumulated another big chunk here at 11, accumulated some more up here at 19,
Wow, you're in
20.
good shape.
So I'm riding about 6,000 shares, and everybody asks me, what's your cost basis? I'm like, I don't really know one single cost basis because every account's got something different going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, different cost basis in every one of them.
And my target, I'd love it to go to 50. I've had a 50 target since we were over here. But the reality of the situation, we're 25 and 26. I'm selling, I just showed a minute ago, I was selling those 35 calls out to January. Right here. I've got them in this account right there. That's 7 open contracts. That's
Yeah,
700 shares underneath there. I sold
perfect.
those. I actually collected 26 cents on those. I don't know what they're going for. Possibly 28 right now at the mid. I got 26 earlier. Did that today. Out to January, 31 days. If that goes up, look at that. It's going from 22 to 35. That'd be a pretty good payday.
It'd be an awesome payday.
13 bucks upside times 700 shares. Oh yeah. I'm not going to be complaining.
Nope.
So this is what, people are like, why? How do you have that conviction? I just do. I can't explain it necessarily. I've been trading this for more than a year. 13 bucks, 700, that's $9,000 on top of getting paid the 26
And the
cents.
dividend, forget that.
Yeah, plus the dividend along the way. That's 182 bucks a premium I just collected, plus the dividend payment I just got that was it 59, 58, 50, 58 cents right there. I'm gonna get paid that tomorrow. 0.58 times 700. That's another 400 bucks I'm getting paid tomorrow on this position. And that doesn't even count the other, this is just 700 shares out of the almost 6,000 I have. So this is now my single biggest position
Nice.
across all my accounts. So, and some people are like, why would you cash flow it? It's extra money. Like the whole point
That's the
is
whole
to,
point. Not to buy and hold it because we think it's going up, but to cash flow it. And that might mean letting go of it on a covered call, right?
the whole point to me is the consistent cash flow is what I'm actually generating. Consistent income. If I get called out and book profit, great. I'll be back in it, selling puts again. Grab it on a pullback, back into it. Like that's the whole point here is to consistent cash flow is the income. That's the point. It's a different mindset than a lot of people use the stock market for. And that's why Jack, it's not as popular either, it seems.
No, but
So
it's where the money's at. So, I don't want to convince anybody of it. It's what I do myself. If there was something better to do, I'd be doing that. But I'm right here with you.
yeah. And I guess, I should talk about some other things I do too to generate a little scratch. Not necessarily right here, but I do
You got another good one. You got that cash bots cooking.
yeah. Cashbot. And it's actually on a like a ridiculous win streak right now. We launched this and it took it on the chin, like 9 losses in a row. It was ridiculous. Hadn't done that in the 5 years we had back tested or something like that. Of course, right after we launch it.
Mm.
And then right after that big loss streak, it goes on to win out of the last 30 trades in a row, it's won 29 of those. So
Wow.
one loss in 30 trades or something like that.
That's something
And
everybody should have.
so if you had just given up after 9 losses, guess what? You just missed like 30 wins in a row. And, you know, it's kind of crazy. The win rate, realistically, right now, since the beginning of the year, right around 84% win rate, 6% average return. Roughly, if you risk $1,000, you get paid about 250 bucks per trade. And let's be real though, there are losses. It took the biggest loss streak we've ever seen right after it went live, and that put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. And that can happen again. Like we
But
could go longer.
if you stick to the system, that's where the money's at, right? You got to stick to it. You got the stats to prove it.
Yeah, if you just stick to it, it's gonna it's probably gonna do 100 wins in a row and fix the 9 losses that we did over the long run. But
Cool.
when that happens, I don't know. Maybe it's later this year. Well, not much time left this year, but maybe it's sometime next year that in 2026. So if you can just consistently keep doing it and not be like, oh, this sucks. It lost 9 in a row. That it's not working. Yeah, yeah, but it's probably going to do 130 in a row and fix the 9 losses, and then the
Exactly.
average is going to be 90% win rate.
That's why you got to stick with it.
So losses occur. They're part of the game. Sometimes they occur in clumps and we can't really do much about it. But if you're in it for the long run and you're controlling your risk and you're actually doing it in an appropriate size for your account, it's going to work. I mean, I can't promise it's going to work, but historically, it's going to work. You just trust the statistics, long-term statistics. So everybody, I'm Jeffrey, if you haven't noticed by now, and I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to try to make this worth your while. Today, we're going to see a breakthrough that could change the way you look at trading forever. It's a new way to target what I call high frequency income. I'm talking about placing a trade when the alert fires off and sometimes closing out just a few hours later, targeting right around 250 bucks each time you risk right around 1,000 bucks on a trade. Now, unlike a lot of today's things we were talking about where it takes weeks to play out or, could be in it for months, sometimes just days. These happen not just once in a blue moon, not even just once a day. Many times they happen up to 3 times a day, thanks to this fully automated trading engine, up to 3 times a day. And the research shows just the other day, we had a day like this. It was just kind of flat, not really going anywhere all day long, just failing to break out, failing to break down. But it presented opportunities, not once, not twice, but 3 times that day during that sideways trading action. And the trades generated 214 bucks, another 200 bucks, another 300 bucks of potential income if you had jumped into them with $1,000 risk. Altogether, those three trades, one day, 750 bucks in high frequency income from just one day of alerts. Imagine how these might stack up if you were able to do them for an entire week or for an entire month or an entire year. Now, before we start guessing on what it is, let me assure you this has nothing to do with directional day trading, where you're frantically trying to guess which way the market might go. We're not doing 0 day options. You don't have to be glued to your screen babysitting the trades. And it's not another too good to be true type of gimmick promising outrageous returns. What today's opportunity is about is targeting reasonable returns in a short amount of time and doing that over and over and over again, because as you'll see in a minute, good things can happen in your account if you can stay consistent on these trades. For example, what would have happened beginning of July? Let's say you put $1,000 in. Of course, you can start with more, you can start with less. Monday, July 7th, 141 bucks. Tuesday, two alerts, 500 bucks. Wednesday, another alert on QQQ, 157 bucks. Thursday, another alert, 142 bucks. Friday, three alerts, 650 bucks. All in all, it's about 1,600 bucks in high frequency income. And we didn't have a single loser that week. Now, 1,600 bucks might not be buying Lambos, retiring early kind of money. Certainly not. But it is extra cash that could go to groceries or mortgages or rainy day funds is probably the best idea, all from clicking a few buttons and watching the positions close out automatically, potentially by the next day. Now, of course, I want to remind you, not every trade is a winner. I keep harping on that because we can take losers and they're part of the game. So never over leverage yourself. Please use a small allocation of capital. By going all in on the next alert, that's a recipe for disaster. So here's what takes these up just a notch or two right here. You see, thanks to a timed advantage buried in the option market like this, we take income opportunities and make them work in just about all sorts of market scenarios, even when the price falls a little bit below our entry point, meaning the market can go up, stay flat, or go slightly against us, and we can still pull it out for the win, allowing us to target with an incredibly high hit rate, which is right around 84% right now this year, and still get maximum bang for the buck. For example, take a look at what would have happened the next week in July. Now, back in July, we saw some news about tariffs promising a blitz on 14 countries. And yet again, you could have tuned all that out and just taken a few minutes, paid attention to these income opportunities that fire off high frequency like. And let's say since the week before you had 100% win rate, maybe you're a little more confident. Maybe you want to put 2 grand at risk. How would you have fared? Well, Monday, one alert, 794 bucks. That's a little richer right there, right? Tuesday, little crazy day, no trade. Wednesday, that does happen occasionally. Sometimes we get 2 or 3 days in a row with no trade. Wednesday, two more alerts, 990 bucks. Wednesday, two more alerts, 850 bucks. Thursday, oh, looks a lot like Tuesday. I bet took a loss on that alert, right? Nope. 590 buck winner. Even though the market dropped, went against this. Altogether, another 3,200 bucks that week if you had followed along automatically. Now, 3,000 bucks, again, we're not buying a Lambo, probably not even putting a down payment on a Lambo. I mean, a lot of people that doesn't even move the the needle at all, really. But for others, that could start to be pretty massive. Like an extra $3,000 payday, especially on the back of a 1,600 payday before that. But either way, maybe it's enough to take the kids to McDonald's or grandkids, and you limit the downside risk. So if you're looking for a new way to trade, one that doesn't require a ton of effort, but show them the power to pay almost every day, look no further, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk through how these work right here. How they fire off fully automatic based on the new trading tool that I built. The timed advantage within the option market that helps these trades hit within a high win rate, plus invite you to take the newest trades this week alongside me, targeting right around 250 bucks if you risk $8,000. Now, if you haven't traded with me before, as I said earlier, I'm Jeffrey Turnmeyer. Welcome to the show. You might know me as a trader that gets lucky when I predict things. Like back in 2022, when the Fed was raising rates at the fastest pace in history, the market was falling fast. I put my reputation on the line, called the exact bottom of the S&P right there in 2022, and we've been nothing but up since then. And just this year, I called the exact top of the market right here, February 28th. I went live on YouTube, said, look, we got a drop potential, a little bounce, and a flush down below 5,000 right there. That's exactly what we got. Drop a little bit, bounce a little bit, and plunge below 5,000 right there. Just got lucky on that call again. I mean, that was the worst flash crash we've had since COVID. Actually, it was 100 points bigger than COVID and lasted 10 days longer than COVID. Crazy, right? Crazy. Now, my big bold predictions aren't the only thing that helped me rack up over $1 million in verified trading profits. I also utilize multiple trading strategies that have been absolute crushing it in the markets. I'm a 100% win rate strategy. 86 trades over the last 3 years, 100% win rate. That's pretty spicy right there. How about my automated trading algorithm? It's averaged 6.3 wins per day on autopilot with a 74% win rate. Not bad. It's these kind of strategies that I combine together to build the cash bot. They've helped many traders, though. These individual ones have helped many traders hit milestones in their account, like Donald here, grabbing my day trade system, put 10,000 bucks in, up 400%. Pretty good. Denise here, 400 bucks into a Robin